Oh,
Yep,
hey,
I'm
everybody.
good
I
when you
want
are.
y'all to welcome me. I'm working my buddy like Donny the Lawn. Donny the Lawn. What's up, Donny the Lawn?
Hey James, how you doing, champ? So nice to see you. It's been a lot of years since we've really had time to connect, and too many. So all is good. I'm very happy to see you.
When is the last time we seen each other in person, though? It's been a long time. Like one of my friends that I played with in Canada, his name is, I'm sitting up here, I'm having one of those moments already about his name.
Scott
But
Flagel, Scott Flagel.
yeah, Scott Flagel. Oh, I'm glad. I hope Scott's not over here to see this and slap me. But like Scott Flagel introduced us together and we've been friends like ever since. I haven't seen Scott in a long time too as well.
That was he was dating a sister of a friend of mine who was dating the other sister, and that's how we ultimately I met Scott, and
Right,
then we met through Scott. Yeah, that was
right.
back in the day, back in the '80s.
Well, I just want to tell everybody like Donnie is not born in Winnipeg, but that's why I met him at and because I'm connecting him that particular way through dynamic of playing there with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, we're going to talk about a few series of questions and answers that he's going to give us. He's rich in content. I'm glad we could get on. Donnie, I got to celebrate you first of all, like saying congratulations on this past weekend. Last week we scheduled to do this on a Monday. But over the weekend, you was announced, unless I'm wrong about this, you got inducted to the Hall of Fame over the weekend. Or did you know prior to that?
I'm so happy about that, James. I mean, first of all, I mean, you do what you do through the passion of why you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you hope that your career, I hoped, that's why the Golden Boy moniker, I hoped to show people that there are good people in boxing. And I wanted to kind of like shift the image from boxing being this backroom, underground type industry, which it's not. There are wonderful people in the sport. Of course, there's good and bad in every business and every walk of
Right.
life,
Right.
but there are wonderful people in the sport of boxing. And I just wasn't getting that in the international media when I was a young kid coming up. So I thought, I'm going to do something very clean and show the world of boxing that there are good people. You can be a good person and be in boxing and be successful. And that was my goal. And I think ultimately I accomplished it during my career, and it really felt good. That being said, you know, I mean, I'm not a perfect human being, and I acknowledge that. And through the grace of God, I continue to try and be better and better. But I'm really happy to be honored by a Hall of Fame because I had some inaccurate, negative media come along about 4 or 5 years ago from what's that called? A defamation effort by some people, and it really hurt me. It hurt my family. It hurt my wife and her family, and I thought maybe it would prevent things like being honored in a hall as being inducted into a Hall of Fame.
Right.
But so far it worked out. We got in there, and I'm very, very excited. Long story short, it was ugly. It hurt my image, and it really hurts me because I wanted to use that image not for myself. You don't see me out there selling Donny Lalonde popcorn. I wanted to do it to help. I wanted to do it to help kids. I always wanted to
Yeah.
use my name to help kids, and
Oh.
hopefully, if the Hall of Fames are still welcoming me in, and super guys like yourself are inviting me onto these podcasts, I guess I'm probably worrying about it more than I need to. And thank you for giving me
Oh.
that moment to speak of it.
Hey man, I'm so glad you could address it to the point where sometimes if we hold so much stuff up inside ourselves, it almost tears our insides out. And because we
Correct.
really want to express it at one time or another to somebody. And it don't have to be like every 100% piece of it, but just acknowledging it comes to give us a peace of mind. It's just like if you
Exactly.
tell a lie, it's always out there, right? But when you
Right.
tell the truth, I mean, it's automatically just going away from you. But a lie is out there looking for its moment to jump back in there and tell another lie about you. So, but when you tell it, you pretty much already kicked everybody to the side because you already gave your opinion of what the matter was about. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Well,
Well,
just tell us this. So tell me this right quick. Where are you originally from? Tell me your journey. Because I
I was
met you
born,
in Winnipeg, but you talked to me the other day. You was from somewhere else. Tell me how you
I
got
was
to
born
Winnipeg.
I was born in Kitchener, Ontario. At 3, my father was from Powell River, British Columbia, and my mother was from Kitchener. They met at the Dare Cookie Factory and moved when I was 3 to Vancouver. Actually, just north of Vancouver, not even on the island. Anyway, and so we lived in Powell River and then Vancouver till I was 11. And then we moved to Stewart, BC, up north because my mother got remarried to a miner, and there was a mine up north. the Alaskan border, 2 miles away, and we lived there till I was 14. That's when we moved to Winnipeg because he was actually Fort Rouge area of Winnipeg, and I started in '76, hometown. I mean, it was my hometown anyway because as a teenager, those are very influential years. It was big years of my life there. But anyway, so my career jumped out from Winnipeg. People assumed I was born in Winnipeg, but Winnipeg is a very big part of my heart, obviously, because from 14 on is the years we really grow up and are influenced in life. So Winnipeg was a big influence on my life, and great superstar athletes like yourself were big inspirations and made me feel confident that we could do something out of Winnipeg, a little town from Canada, and we both did all right.
That's amazing, dude. I mean, how did you wind up going into boxing, though? I'm like, why would you do boxing as a Canadian? I thought you might do like, what's the thing that rock you be throwing down? The rock that you slide. I forgot in that sport. Oh shucks, I forgot the name of that sport. But you literally just slide down and you drop the rock off, and it finishes on the
curling.
Curling. Why did you take up curling?
Oh my God.
To the boxing.
Wow. First of all, I did love the ice, hockey. I played hockey. I loved hockey. And I played well. I didn't have the skating skills to make it in the NHL.
I got
But
you.
I have the other kind of skills, kind of like boxing. I don't have the greatest fundamentals in boxing, but I could getting away with what I did because I had a unique way to do that. And I had the same kind of thing in hockey. And so I'd win scoring championships and stuff. But then when I would go to an all-star tryout or be drafted to the all-star pick for it, I was such a bad fundamental hockey player. The coach would be like, you can't be on this team. I got to be the slowest. I couldn't shoot the puck from the blue line to the goalie in the air, but I would win the scoring race.
With line drives?
Yeah, no, I was a good playmaker. I knew how to get to the position to just bang. My goals were all like garbage goals, like Phil Esposito stuff. You stand in front of the net, somebody passes you, shove it in there, or you were the one behind the net and you throw it in front and they get it, type thing. So I was able to do these things, but not with strong fundamentals. So I never made all-star teams or AA or AAA kind of like leagues, But it's okay. It's all right. It led me to boxing.
Right. No, but it seemed like you didn't. I think you did something else though. Didn't you try to play football before you got into boxing? Well, I think it seemed like boxing was your last thing. Okay.
Yes, I played football when I lived in Vancouver for 8 years.
Okay.
After Powell River at 4 we moved to Vancouver, and I was there until, like I said, just before I was 12. So it was 8 years. And when I was in Vancouver, I played football, Canadian football. In fact, my biggest game in Canadian football was in the all-star team for that year. It was actually a year older than me. I made their all-star team. And we played against a team in Washington State, from Washington State, a U.S. team. And we played in the Stanley Park. There's a football stadium in Stanley Park. I don't know if you know that, but there's a big football stadium in Stanley Park, an outdoor one. So we played there, and these guys beat us so bad, 54-6, I remember. Anyway, so I love football, played football, but there's no football, there was hockey. So I played hockey.
How did you go from what was next for you after that? Because it looked like you went from an all-star, and then that wasn't successful in football. So how did you find your next success, and how did you get to that?
Well, boxing is kind of funny how it came to me. I left home at 15. It was a very violent, my stepfather was very violent. And so I didn't want to sit around and watch it anymore. And I couldn't really do much about it. So I left home and hitchhiked minus 30 degrees, December of 75 to Kitchener, Ontario, 1,200 miles. And that was a life challenging moment, minus 33. The snow was blowing sideways. That's how windy it was.
Right.
In the Bluebird, And I remember standing on the side of the road, my thumb out, head all wrapped in clothes because I didn't have proper toques and stuff, and just thinking, well, I might just die here, but I'd rather die here than in my own bedroom, type thing. So anyway, at 15, I hitchhiked to Kitchener, Ontario, and then I was with my older brother, who was 3 years older than me, working construction, building homes, I was actually taking an apprenticeship to become a carpenter. And by now I'm like 16. And my brother and I were watching boxing, smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer, Saturday afternoon, watching Wyld Sports. And there was a boxing match on, and these, you know, how the fighters look in the corner, and they're all muscular, confident looking. And I just looked at him and I said, John, wouldn't you like to feel like that one day? He was like, what? And I said, just look at this guy. He looks like he has such self-confidence, such self-esteem, such self-worth that he feels he can beat anything in the whole world, you know? Wouldn't you like to feel like that? And he goes, yeah, what about it? And I said, well, why don't we just try boxing? I said, even for a day, like try one fight, you know, just to see if that can help us feel better about ourselves. And sure enough, for my life from that point on never changed. I started fighting that day. I went for a 5-mile run in the snowstorm and got to this friend's house, stayed there, and made a plan. I was going to be a boxer. So what really inspired me is boxing gave me an opportunity to see a chance that I can shift my life from what I was born into to what I felt I deserved to be. Because I didn't understand why I was any different than anybody else. I didn't see why I had to be looked down upon because we lived in a housing project, or I had to be looked down upon because I didn't have a father, or because, you know, these things. I mean, and I have always felt we were all children of God. We're all born equal. You know, I mean, you show me you're a good person, that means you're a good person. That's it. You know, you show me you're a bad person, then I got to stay away from you and pray that things evolve for you. But that's it. I mean, whether it be like as a Canadian, when I grew up, for example, today there's so much discussion about all the race stuff and all that. Personally, I believe it's a political ploy to make people against each other. I mean, I grew up driving all over America, living all in the inner cities. We had no money. We just barely had the money to get from town to town. And we would go there to spar. So I lived in inner city America for a number of years. I would say 80 to 84, I spent most of my time on the road. I've been to almost every state in the country, except for I think 2. And I boxed in almost every one against somebody in an inner city gym. And to me, I've never met a person of color who's been a bad guy to me. I've met many people, white people, that have been complete scumbags, you know? So my life and my experience has been so different than, let's say, what the media has been. And so when I grew up when I was coming up in boxing, it was very unusual for white people to be involved in the sport, especially at a successful level. Mm-hmm. And it gave me an opportunity to interact with people from the socioeconomic environment I came from. We lived on welfare. My dad left when I was 3. My mom was single when I was 3. She had 4 kids. So what was she going to do? She was on welfare. We were on welfare. We lived in a housing project, you know. And I didn't understand why people treated me different because they look down on you because you come from poor, you know. Mm-hmm. And so this whole thing in today's world, as a Canadian who wasn't born into the racial propaganda that unfortunately America was or is, I didn't understand the whole thing. I understood we were really mean, horrible, through the Catholic Church, I guess, to the natives in Canada and in America, but the whole race issue was not something on my radar.
Wow. That's incredible how we're talking about this now conversation about how you got over it. It's incredible how you pretty much left on your own at the age of 15 and then you discover yourself. Did your brother go with you too as well?
No, he left at 12.
He left at 12.
My brother left at 12 years old and went to live with an uncle and started his life there because he said he was not going to stay for another minute if my mom married this guy.
Wow.
And she hadn't married him. So he left. And then my sister, she left when she was probably 11 because she was a year younger than him. She left right away as well. So I became the oldest at about 10 and stayed just to save my mom. I tried to, protect my mom. That's why I stayed. Right. But after about 5 years of that, I told her I'm leaving. She said, please stay till you're 16. None of my kids have stayed till they're 16. I said, well, think about that. Get rid of this guy, you know what I mean? But didn't know. She was like a woman who was beaten down. They have no self-confidence. You know, when you spend like 10 years with somebody who's abusing you, it breaks down your self-confidence and your self-esteem, so you don't even know you've got the option to leave and start a life alone, you know.
It's amazing that
So
you're saying
anyway,
this too again. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out like, okay, how did you get through the damage of this? I mean, we talked about faith earlier, you know, I mean, you talking about your faith walking this and that. And when you go into boxing or any other sport, you start playing, pretty much that becomes your identity. But something must have been steadily ingrained in you. What was that kept you going to still having that type of faith?
you know, I went to Catholic school for grade 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, I mean, the Catholic Church part of it wasn't such a positive experience, but the connection to God, to knowing that, okay, what you're seeing with your eyes, the way you're treated, the way life is for people that come from a socioeconomic environment you do, may not be fair, and man may be messed up, but you know God is there for you.
Yes.
And knowing that, my mom was very strong that way, and knowing that somehow deep inside gave me hope and faith that there was an answer, there was a solution to the state I was living in. And I was very fortunate to have very good people in my life who continue to remind me of the presence of God in the world, you know.
Mm.
And I mean, I was an atheist at times. I mean, I traveled every route I could to try and find sense in the world, because coming up as a young child, there wasn't a lot of that in my world.
Wow.
And so I really think that just in this important thing, I think for all kids going through anything right now, because I know it's a lot of kids are going through these days. I mean, we have to just hold out hope and knowledge and knowing a knowingness that there's a greater whole to this. We call him God, and he is there for us, and we just got to just, you know, keep the faith and knowing that and living that and focusing and visualizing on that. You are going to hear his voice. You're going to get guidance and direction, and that is where your hope is. It's not in.
Right.
Bob Dylan did a great poem about 15 minutes, and he explained, you know, it's not in the pretty girl you see up there on the stage. It's not in, you know, the famous musician or your athlete or money. It's not in this. It's not in that. He finishes the thing with, I think if you go to the Grand Canyon and look out there, you're going to find it somewhere in there. In other words, he's meaning God, the creation of God, you know. I mean, God, which has created all of this, all of us, all of this earth. And we are as connected on a cellular level from here to all the way where you are. We are connected because every single cell in the universe is connected. And God is the main whole, right?
Right.
So we are all part of the whole. And knowing this was very powerful for me.
I thank you for letting me know that too, and letting others know this as well. Around the world, this pandemic is talking to all individuals at the same time, believers and not believers, trying to grow a relationship with them actually through the advent of Jesus Christ here. So, but you pretty much explained that the people kept you connected to the presence of God, and then you continue to hold on to hope. And now you went on to be like a world champion. Now you're in the Hall of Fame in terms of Indianapolis. It's a whole lot of amazing other things that are going to happen to you. But what I want to know is, I gotta slide this one in. You know, we got to talk about football. We talked. So when you were in Winnipeg, so do you remember any of the teams at any seasons there that inspired you, or whatever the case may be? Tell me about that, because we already talked about Scott Flagel.
1984.
Okay.
We all won a championship.
Yeah.
It was a very big year for me. Also, it's amazing the coincidence. How it coincided, my life and career coincided with y'all's.
I know what you're talking about too.
1984 is the first fight opportunity I got on ESPN in the States, which was a really big opportunity, and it was my big breakthrough year. It was the year you guys won the first cup in many years,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then in '88 is my biggest year in boxing. Unfortunately, I lost to Ray Leonard, but I had a successful world title defense in May of '88, and it really catapulted my life and career to fulfilling all of my dreams. In '88, like the Bombers did, right? And so obviously and I was a player, let alone a big fan. So I remember going to the Salisbury end zone all the time. I think it was $5 a ticket. And we used to, just take up that whole section. Actually, there's a famous group of people called the Gotchmen. Have you heard of this?
Gotchmen. Okay. I'm not.
Gotchmen, Gotch being underwear.
Okay. Okay.
So they would wear their underwear to the Blue Bombers game.
Okay. Gotchmen.
And these were my buddies from my childhood. I mean, from when I was 14, when I met them in Winnipeg. And they wanted me to be a Gotchman, And I won the Canadian Championship in '83 on national television. And I came back to Winnipeg and there was a Bombers game. And I'm thinking, I can't be one of these athletes who go from nothing to success and forget my friends. So I'm going to a Gotch game. I'm going to a game as a Gotchman. So I put on a pair of underwear, like short ones, and put one over my head so you couldn't see my face because I was afraid of the public thing because I had just won on national TV. Well, a week earlier, one of the Gotchmen had offended one of the cheerleaders. So they wanted to make an example of some Gotchmen the next week, my lucky week. So I'm walking down the stairs going to get a beer with a friend of mine, and we get arrested in front of all these people. And the guy pulls my Gotch off my head. And he goes, "Oh my God, Donny!" And he realized that I'm Donny Lalonde, and he just pulled me aside, and he was in a compromised situation because he had already made the scene, and he couldn't just say, "We'll let you go," And they were just trying to make an example from the week earlier. I didn't do anything wrong. They were just grabbing a couple guys, and Anyway, funny experience. So I got arrested at a Winnipeg Blue Bombers game, wearing underwear. But I wanted to be committed to my friends and, that I wasn't just going to be, a successful athlete and then leave them all behind.
That's funny. It's probably why you left there anyway, because we didn't win another Grey Cup until the next season after that. But if you could be reminded, so you told me 84 to 88. And so I don't know if you was there between 80, 89 and 90, which we won one in 90. But if you had to tell me what was the best of all those teams, what team would it have been? What year, if you remember?
Well, I mean, probably.
They didn't necessarily have to win. Let me just say this first. They didn't necessarily have to win the championship. Was probably the best team that you saw that year?
I mean, I think logically, people probably think of, and I thought of the '84 team or the '88 team as the best team.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I was in New York at this time.
Right.
I was not able to really follow the Bombers at this time. I had 3 channels on my TV. My managers, when a fighter signs a contract, you live under the manager's rules. And he gave me 3 channels at my apartment. I could see the Honeymooners. That was about it. That was the best thing I watched. There was no sports stations and all that. Oh yeah, I had Madison Square Garden because that had boxing on it. At Madison Square Garden and a couple of other channels. So I could see none of the CFL. And so I didn't really know a lot about the 86, 7, and 8 teams. Of course, I saw more of 8 because we won the championship, so you go back and watch more of that. Okay. So I don't know. Why? You tell me. You were on the teams.
I didn't want it to be a long football question because I wanted primarily I just wanted people to be aware that you knew what was going on there. But I thought 87 was our best team. And 88, the year that we won a Grey Cup, was the 87. We had 12 CFL All-Stars. We had like three secondary guys. I think we had 4 wide receivers, 2 or 3 linebackers for the whole. It was like 12 guys that made All Canadian that year. It was the best team I ever played on.
How come you didn't win the cup that year?
I'm sorry?
How come you did not win the cup that year?
I don't know. We just had a bad day on offense. Tom Clemens was our quarterback, and we just couldn't get anything moving. And they ran the ball against us because we was in attack mode the whole time. So they kind of managed the clock for us sometimes. So our offense didn't get a chance to get a whole lot of times that we had. And if we got 3 and outs, we might not get the ball back, and probably about another 8 and outs on their other side. It was a low scoring game.
Yeah.
But, all we needed is like one touchdown, and we didn't get it, though. But I still say that was the best team I ever played on. But, of course, we come back the next year, probably not the best team I ever played on. But that was the year that we won. It was kind of funny.
You get any way you can get it, right?
Exactly, right. Then, of course, we came back and won it in 1990. And so I don't want to keep –
Quick football story for me.
Okay, go ahead.
When I was like 12, I was at like a church event in British Columbia up north, near Alaska. And there was a guy named Ron Perone, played for Ottawa Rough Riders. He was a punt returner. And we had a really great connection up there when I met him in British Columbia up north. I was 12, 11. Anyway, he said, if you ever are we were moving to Winnipeg. He goes, if you're ever in Winnipeg and the Ottawa Rough Riders come there for a game, contact our head office and we'll get you to the game. And so I did when this happened, fast forward I think I was 15. It might've been 1976, 5 or 6, anyway. So I contacted the league because Ottawa was coming, and they said, unfortunately, Ron Perone has retired. He had too many concussions. So he has just recently retired. But we will honor what he offered you. So come on down to the game.
Wow.
So he brought me to the game. I mean, they gave me seats on the center line. They brought me into the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Winnipeg Blue Bombers dressing room. Rogers. No, it was Montreal. What was his name, Rogers? Very fast. Rocket Ismail. Ismail, right. Rocket Ismail, yeah. He was on the team. So it was in that era, right there.
Oh, okay.
So I got to be in the dressing room, on the field. They said, forget your seat. Just come on down to the field. It was the greatest day of a kid's life. You can't even imagine. 15, 16 years old,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let me ask you this. I'm going to go back to the boxing round before I close you out on a couple of more questions, though. But, tell me some of your most, from a lack of a better word or conversation, who did you really thought that you really could not beat that you wind up beating anyway? I mean, we always go into a mindset thinking we're going to win. Were you kind of like, I'm not really sure about this guy? But did you wind up, and then maybe at the first start of the fight, it looked like, well, this guy is better than me, and you wind up winning that fight. Did you have any one of those experiences that led to your championship?
2 of them quickly. One of them when I was younger, I remember going out with my corner, and the guy in the ring was so big, and he was a monster, really well muscled. And I said to my corner, is this my fight? That guy looks like a heavyweight. Are you sure I'm fighting this guy? But yeah, Donny, this is your guy, and I was literally petrified going out there. And I remember I knocked him out like in the first round cold.
Wow.
And as I was walking to the neutral corner as he's going down, I just said, thank you, Lord, because I don't know who landed that punch, but somebody did. And it almost seemed like it, didn't get. I landed, when you land just right, it almost feels like you don't land because like you said, like the head just spins, there's nothing there.
Right.
Anyway, so that was a great one. And then there was another one. I was going out to fight this guy. George Chuvalo was his manager.
Okay.
And so he was the new George Chuvalo. He's from Toronto, and he fought all the great fighters from Montreal. He was known as like this. Jimmy Gradson was his name. Jimmy Stonewall Gradson. You can't get through this guy. He's got a stone wall. He's a stone wall. And this is the only time I'd ever broken the rules and participated in intimate affairs before a fight within a couple weeks.
Wow.
And you weren't supposed to do that. So this is playing on your mind,
It is.
So in the dressing room, I'm thinking, this guy is George Chuvalo's guy, the new Canadian who's never going to get knocked down. I was a Canadian champion. I was defending my Canadian championship. But this guy was super tough. And what I did wrong in training camp, even though it was like 10 days earlier, plays on your mind. And you start thinking, oh, my legs are going to be weak. Right. They say if you do that, you're going to have weak legs. All of a sudden, legs are so weak. I said to my trainer, I don't know if I can stand up, let alone walk to the ring, let alone fight 12 rounds against Canada's new George Chuvalo, So I was petrified. But you got to go, So you just go out there. My legs literally could barely walk me to the ring. And what you got to do is you just got to, like I say, you've done the homework. I studied acting in New York for a while, years later, and what the guy said to me is trust the process.
Yeah.
If you do all the right things, in that moment, it's going to come out and you're gonna nail it. Well, that's more or less where I came from. So I trusted the process. Other than that one violation, I did all the right things. I went out there. This guy had never been knocked down. He's famous for the wars he was in. I knocked him down 3 times within 90 seconds and out cold in 90 seconds.
Wow.
All that fear, when you can just go inside and just trust, ultimately your trust is in God that things are going to work out.
It says, trust in God, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, you to give you the desires of your heart. And that sounds like what you did. It sounds like what you were expressing. And so, I thank you for that. That was a great suggestion. I don't want to give you none of mine in terms of that. I'm glad that was your answer instead of mine. So let me ask you, as the end, like, what would you like to say about your legacy, especially now that you went into the Hall of Fame now and get ready to go into it and get inducted and all that? I definitely want to invite. But I want you to just tell me, if you just had to express somebody in terms of that, what would your legacy be like? Or what would you want it to be?
Well, I mean, I guess, it's an interesting question, and there's many different answers to it.
Okay.
But because there's a number of different things you would like, I would like to be known from my boxing days as a person who gave 100%, who in spite of many, many challenges, because I had many injuries, 6 diagnoses, different separate diagnoses of career-ending injuries. I just kept the faith, So I think if anyone can know anything, as long as you can stay connected to your relationship with God, and you can really focus and believe in yourself, anything can happen. It had to be 1 million to 1, 10 million to 1 that I would become world champion.
Wow.
And when you really have faith and you really focus your attention on your goal, literally mountains move, the sky opens up, and opportunities happen. I mean, it did not look like I was going to have a chance to fight for a world title. Michael Spinks was the champion. He was gold medalist in the Olympics, beat everybody, unified the titles. And what happens just when it's my turn to get there? Everybody's telling me I'm crazy. Donny, you're injured. Go back to work. You can have a whole career. You're an intelligent guy. What are you doing in boxing? And I just held on to the faith, And what happens? Michael Spinks retires from the light heavyweight division, moves up to heavyweight, becomes the first guy in history to win a world heavyweight title from light heavyweight division, and it opens up 6 opportunities for the world title. Right? God works in miraculous ways, ways we can never predict. Right?
Wow.
So if there's anything, keep the faith, and don't let anybody tell you that any dream is too big, because you can accomplish anything.
It sounds like your life should be based on like 3 different things, and that was choices, changes, and choice, change, chances, and change. You got to make a choice to make a chance, or you would never change. So you make a choice to take a chance, or you'll never change. And you did that. As a matter of fact, this whole conversation was pretty much about that one, about how you went from one place to another one, then you had to decide what you're going to do after that, and then you change, and now you become an iconic figure, not only in boxing, but as a man and a character person. We love you here. I'm going to address this to not only the people around the world, but also the people in Winnipeg who love you immensely. I know they would love to get a chance to say hello to you and celebrate what you did for the city, because it gave them their identity. We know our identity is in Christ. We are boxers, or we have been football players, but that's not our identity. Our identity is in Christ. And that's what you said for us and this and that. I appreciate that. And thank you for this. Oh, man, I look forward to us getting engaged again. Keep me updated on when that's going to happen, that celebration in Indianapolis, the Hall of Fame induction, and with this and that. That's going to be awesome for you, man. I'm celebrating with you. I can't celebrate. I can't wait to see that again. And let's get together again and have another chat when something else is coming in your course.
You
God
betcha.
bless you.
I'm hoping to get a book out. So maybe when that's around, we can talk about it.
Oh, that would be really awesome. As a matter of fact, I got somebody for you who is Canadian, and he's right there in Winnipeg. Yes, sir.
Send me that.
Many books.
That would be awesome.
God bless you, man.